Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Okay, let's offer the mandala, so please make the mudra. Here is the great earth filled with the smell of incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain of 4 continents wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayame. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I achieve the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration, wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. So there, I will. Okay, let's start with Katerina. That Katerina. Go ahead. What do you have to rejoice in today? Need to turn your microphone. There
Can
you
you
go.
hear me?
Yes.
Please help me with translation. Спасибо. Добрый вечер всем. Я радуюсь тому, что у нас сегодня занятие. Радуюсь тому, что новые люди пришли в группу, кого-то я знаю. Радуюсь тому, что у меня был день рождения, и многие люди поздравили меня, и это была возможность пообщаться, спросить, как у кого дела. Вот. Спасибо.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Ekaterina is rejoicing about the today's class, and also she is rejoicing that new people have come to the class today, and also about her birthday that she had, and she received from people good wishes and it for her birthday, and it was the opportunity for her to communicate with people, and this is her reason for rejoicing.
Well, when was your birthday?
On September 11th.
Oh, well,
Yesterday.
we need to sing her happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Turn your microphones on. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday,
dear
Katya.
Katya.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
And many more. Very good. Well, I'm glad you had a good birthday.
Thank you
Quite,
so much.
quite the day to have a birthday, September 11th, but okay. Katya, you're up next.
Hi, hello. I rejoice that I did the homework and the quiz and the lectures and the meditations. So I'm very happy that I'm doing this course with compromise.
Very good. Way to do it. If you get behind, you'll never finish anything. Okay, Lydia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. I rejoice that I do Tonglen for my mom. And I have special, how to say it, so some difficulties when we communicate. And I remember that she is from my seeds, so I started to think about it and do Tonglen mostly every day. I want to do 30 days Tonglen for her. And I already see that our communication is better. So I rejoice for that.
Very good. Very good. Your mother's a powerful karmic object, so you can get lots of good karma working with her, and unfortunately, you can get lots of bad karma if you don't treat her properly. But you're right, she's coming from you. Everything's coming from you, and you have control over it. Very good. Okay, Mike, you're next.
Hello, can you hear me? Is my microphone working?
Yep.
Oh, we're okay. I rejoice that so today is my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Feliz, feliz tu día.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Birthday, dear
Mom.
Happy birthday
Feliz
to
cumpleaños.
you.
Thank you. So today is my birthday, and this is the first year. I want to rejoice. This is the first year that I haven't had like a meltdown approaching my birthday, and like on my birthday, usually the month before my birthday is just like emotionally very difficult for me. And this year hasn't been like that. And I really think it's because of the way that the Dharma is changing the way that I look at my problems, or what, when I have like a difficult emotion, I don't have to like freak out anymore, you know? Because it's like my response that dictates my future. So I just want to rejoice in that because it's working, and I hope it's working for all of you. Thank you, Venerable Sumati.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned your birthday in that light. My birthday has never been any really big deal. My birthday is the same day as Willie Mays, a famous baseball player, Tony Blair, who was the same age I was when he was running Britain. So it's a little frightening to think someone at 55 years old is running a nuclear power. And then Ayatollah Khomeini was born on May 6th. George Clooney was born on May 6th. So I'm in good company. But my birthday's like when I hit 21, I could vote and I could drink. When I hit 30, it was like, okay, I hit 30. But to each his own. Well, I'm glad the Dharma is helping you deal with that. That's I'm really pleased. That's the whole reason I teach, to have students have that kind of reaction and use of the Dharma. Wonderful. Okay, Svetlana.
Hello, dear Lama Sumati. Hello, everyone. I'd like to rejoice that we have these beautiful teachings, we have teachers in our lives, and it helps a lot to navigate through our daily lives, to choose better responses in those situations that could trigger our negative emotions. So it can be small talk with a colleague, morning coffee talk or something, and when you try to remember karma and emptiness, your karma soul. So you're not getting frustrated, but trying to get actions which can lead you to better future experience. So I'd like to rejoice in the teachings of you, dear Lama Sumati. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's interesting she brings up. Now, I will admit to something that may help with it getting confusing. I'm teaching course 12 in Malaysia at 5 in the morning, and course 12 is also on emptiness. So I'm teaching emptiness in the morning, I'm teaching emptiness again, which is great. I'm not complaining, but trying to keep track of what part of emptiness I'm teaching is starting to be a little bit of a brain scramble. So, but it's all empty. Okay, Alexander.
Yes, hello, thank you. I also rejoice that I have completed my homework in quizzes from the first class, and
Yay.
I dedicate this to all the students of this course and all the students in general, and all living beings. May they complete all their ACI courses as quickly and well as possible and reach total enlightenment.
Very nice. Very
you.
nice. Okay. Daria.
Good morning, Venerable Sumati. I rejoice yesterday my computer's sound is dead. It's second computers, and I'm happy because I think it's my empty speech, yeah, if I talk some, yes. And second, today, when I was in my job, I say myself, don't stay gloomy, glitchy, and silent, and don't speak with your colleagues. It's something not about work, or maybe about some people, certain people. And I tried, stopped my speech and my mind.
Well, that's one of the hardest things to do, is to take a habit or other people's habits. I mean, if other people come up to you and say, oh, let's talk about this, that, or this and that, you can't just say, no, I don't do that anymore. You have to be respectful in a sense of their need to hear somebody speak like that. But I don't think I've told this story to this group. We had a new employee come to the lab I was working in, and he would swear all the time when he talked, all the time, using words I don't normally use. And one day I came home and was talking to my lovely wife, and one of those words slipped in our conversation. And she looked at me and she said, you don't talk like that in this house. And I realized that I was forming a habit based on this other person's way of speaking. And if you know my wife, she's 5'2", I'm 6'3". So I'm basically a foot taller than she is. And when she gets mad, you stop and you listen. So when she said, you don't talk like that in this house, I went, okay. So, but it's habit. Okay, Christina, you're up next.
Наталья, пожалуйста, помогите мне с переводом. Спасибо. Здравствуйте. Ну, у меня сегодня просто огромная радость, просто гигантская. Сегодня мне удалось впервые вообще в жизни поймать себя на маленькой регулярной лжи. И у меня до сих пор еще такой вау-эффект от этого. И я прям думаю, вот это да, это столько сразу много появилось поле для работы по поэтическим принципам говорить правду, это прям вау. И у меня прям такой восторг от этого. Я прям сидела в аудитории и радовалась. Это случилось во время занятий в университете. И я прям этот момент прям, ну, так хорошо отметила, что мне показалось, что я даже просто рядом с собой нахожусь в этот момент. И наблюдаю это все. Ну, как же мне это удалось? И было очень, ну, прям очень здорово. Ощущение того, что у меня не было, что я страдаю по этому поводу, или вот это чувство вины, или что-то вот такое. Я испытала настоящую радость в этот момент, когда я осознала, что я регулярно вру очень маленькие вещи. Вот. Вот это
Okay,
моя радость.
so good, go for it.
Mhm. Christina has told that today she managed to catch herself in a irregular lie at the university during her studies or lecture. She has caught herself on a regular lie, and she had a wow effect. And she has rejoiced a lot about it. She didn't feel any guilt or suffering, just a very big enjoyment, delight that she realized that she had such a habit in her life to lie regularly. And now she has understood a great field of work for herself with this ethical principle about lie.
Lying?
Lying,
telling
yeah,
truth,
yeah,
yeah.
lying, not telling truth
Wow. Well,
regularly.
That's very big. I'm really pleased. You don't realize, none of us realize how we go through life and tell tiny lies. They don't seem like they're important, but they're not the truth. So if you stop and catch yourself, you'll find you're not talking half as much. But wow, I'm really pleased. That is huge. Good luck and keep doing it. Okay, let's see who's else here. Anna's just recording. Tatiana, I see you there.
Добрый слышно?
I can hear you.
Я прошу прощения, что без...
I don't hear anything. Oh, my interpreting's turned off.
Я сейчас путешествую, изучаю ACI 6 и плохо себя чувствую. И радуюсь плохой карме, которая закончилась. Благодарю.
I can't, my interpretation's turned off. There we go.
Tatiana has told that she's studying ACI 6 at the moment, and also she's traveling, and she's feeling bad all at the same time. And she is rejoicing about the fact that she's feeling bad because it means that her bad karma has ripened and it finished. So
Wow.
this is all that I've heard.
Yeah. Wow. That's very impressive. That's rejoicing in your bad karma ripening. Wow. I don't think I've ever heard a student say that before. Very good. You're right. Ripen, wish it gone. Don't repeat what got it to you, and it'll be burned up in a way. Okay, last but not least is Avilda. You're up, dear.
Hi everyone. Hello. I didn't hear the last one, but it sounded like it was the same one I was going to give. I have had a lot of negative karma ripening through my body, cataract, and that after 5 years, I finally had the courage to get it done because I met a doctor that I felt so at peace with. I get a lot of bursitis and other body aches, body pains. And I'm grateful, actually. I realized that, well, it's a cataract, it's a bursitis, it's body ache. At least I'm still alive. And whatever karma burnt, that's it. And whatever I did to create it, may I never do it again. And dedicate the pain that I have and the fear that I have, so that others don't have to go through the pain and fear as I have. So basically, you know, I'm really happy that I found the Dharma, that I found my teachers, that I practice, and that I can really rejoice for these things, for everything in my life, and move forward in my practice. So everything is a way to move forward in our practice.
Right. The Lam Rim, think of the Lam Rim as a conveyor belt. It's, you step on this conveyor belt and it's going to take you to enlightenment. It's not stairs you have to climb. It's a conveyor belt. All you have to do is stay on it. And that means study and listen to teachings. If you can do that, it may take a while, but you're going to get there. So very, very good. Well, I'm really inspired by everybody. That's a great set of rejoicings. Okay, so now we're on to Diamond Cutter class number 2.
Before we go on to 2, can I ask a question about number 1?
Sure.
I did the homework. I didn't work on the quiz because this is one of my problems in understanding Dharma. There are questions that come up that, I don't know if it's my language or whatever. There's always 1 or 2 questions which would frustrate me, but I'm grateful that I'm not frustrated anymore, but it still happens, that I don't understand the question, and therefore the answer eludes me. And then when I think of an answer, it's not the answer. So the question that I really had difficulty with was question number 5. Why is it important to include the original word cutter in the title? And my understanding was that it cuts from the root everything involved in the mental afflictions and each and every suffering. So the point of the title is that the opposite of this wisdom can never affect it in the least. That the wisdom, on the other hand, cuts from the root everything involved in mental afflictions. But that wasn't the answer. And the answer totally eluded me, the fact that the diamond is cut or undone by emptiness. And are those... I'm confused with the language, I guess. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, the diamond is a metaphor for emptiness.
Right.
But if you look at it from another viewpoint, the diamond is the ultimate in our world. It's the ultimate hardness. But emptiness cuts the diamond. So the Diamond Cutter Sutra is talking about the absolute ultimate emptiness and how it takes even a diamond and can cut it where nothing else can.
Okay.
So that's it in a nutshell.
So emptiness cuts the diamond, and the diamond is the hardest. So
the diamond is the ultimate thing in our world. It's the hardest thing in the world, and because of that, nothing can affect it except emptiness. So that makes emptiness the ultimate. There's something more ultimate than the diamond, and that's emptiness.
So emptiness is the cutter of the diamond.
Yeah. Got
it. In those words, I kind of understand it, but in the words of what was written, I kind of lost it.
Yeah.
And I lost it because I thought it had to do with cutting away our mental afflictions.
Well, it does, because emptiness helps with that. When you see emptiness directly, you cease your mental afflictions.
Right.
So it is cutting them as well.
Okay. Now I can do my test. I can do my
Okay.
quiz.
Good, good.
Thank you.
Okay. So now Subhuti asks Lord Buddha, if someone's trying to be a bodhisattva, how should they act? What should they practice? And how should they think? Lord Buddha gives his answer in let me see. He gave his answer, and the answer is basically the Diamond Cutter Sutra. Subhuti, try and think of every living being, every being we could call living, suffering being. Then he describes all the kinds there are. So one division of all the beings is how they were born. And Lord Buddha talks about 4 ways of being born. From the womb, which is how mammals are born. From eggs, which is how reptiles and insects are born. From miraculous beings, such as the Master Padmasambhava, or think of the miraculous beings. We think of miraculous birth being only for good beings, but anybody that goes into the hell realm is miraculously born fully intact in the hell realm. And the last one's warmth and moisture. I don't know if you recall in school where they talked about spontaneous generation. But that's what they did is they took some hay and they mixed it with water and put it out in the sun to get warm. And after a while, there'd be all kinds of things swimming in it. And so that was called spontaneous birth, spontaneous generation. It wasn't, there were eggs in the hay, so it was really being born of an egg. But that's I remember still to this day, the first time that was demonstrated to me. Lord Buddha continues, a bodhisattva tries to focus on all these kinds of beings and wants to bring each and every one of them to nirvana. Then he says, and by the way, when you do manage to bring all these beings to total nirvana, there will be no living being at all that was brought to their total nirvana. So you say, I don't know about you, but when I heard that, I thought to myself, what is he talking about? So, and don't forget, this is the first class I've ever had with Geshe Michael. And we have a bunch of students in the class that have taken the courses from him. So my wife and I are kind of sticking out like sore thumbs, wondering what's going on. So we're going to need to dissect this statement to understand it properly. What is it to wish to bring all beings to total nirvana? Who is it you're wishing to bring to total nirvana? And what does he mean when he said, you get there and there's nobody there? The process of focusing on every living being and wishing they could reach nirvana is called bodhicitta. And it's often translated mistakenly, well, it's translated as bodhi mind, but that's often further translated to mean the mind of a Buddha. It doesn't mean that. It means the state of mind we hope to be, where we hope to become a Buddha, want to become one who can truly help others. So it doesn't have bodhicitta instantaneously make you Mahayana and going to be a Buddha. Wanting to help all other sentient beings is what makes us all other sentient beings, is what makes us Mahayana. There are 2 other kinds of the wish for enlightenment. So there are a total of 3. Now this confused me. I've probably talked about this before, but this had confused me for months when I started taking the ACI courses. I mean, enlightenment, yeah, how can you have partial enlightenment? That doesn't make any sense. Well, according to some schools, nirvana is enlightenment. Self-made Buddhas and listeners, or fall into that category. Mahayana total enlightenment is where you wish for your enlightenment so you can help all beings become enlightened. To be clear, here's a short definition of bodhicitta from Lord Maitreya. The wish for total enlightenment consists of the intention to reach total enlightenment for the sake of others. Total enlightenment for the sake of others. So throughout the ACI courses, you'll see total enlightenment or bodhicitta and Mahayana bodhicitta. Strictly speaking, bodhicitta is the wish to achieve enlightenment. It has nothing to do with doing it for others. Mahayana bodhicitta is where you say, I want to reach enlightenment, but I want to reach enlightenment for the sake of all living beings. And that's the difference. So you have to be clear when you're talking about bodhicitta to make sure you're talking about Mahayana bodhicitta or the bodhicitta of a listener or a self-made Buddha. So, what is the absolute best way to help others? Let's see, I think there are three ways you can look at getting enlightened. You can look at getting enlightened, of not getting enlightened until everybody else in front of you gets enlightened. You can look at getting enlightened with everybody else at the same time. Or the correct one is to get enlightened yourself so you can then go and teach everybody how to do it. So one's king-like, one's ferry boat, and what's the third one?
Shepherd?
Yeah, shepherd. Thank you. Yeah. So as we approach closer and closer to nirvana, we'll reach a point where the goal is for ourselves alone or focusing on all others and then go on. It's very important that we make that distinction as soon as you can. So I remember the first time I told someone I was a Buddhist, they asked me what track. And I had to stop and think. I wasn't sure. And then I realized they were talking about Hinayana or Mahayana. So I said, Mahayana. And they just smiled and didn't ask any more questions. Then Lord Buddha talks about beings according to their ability to conceptualize. In our realm, we operate on a very gross, low form of conceptualization, distinguishing with our senses between things. In the higher realms, the mind is more finely tuned, more subtle, and just about any thought is a deep meditation. In this sutra, he goes through all the different kinds of beings there are to show us to focus on all living beings, not just people and the animals of the world. We actually see these other realms are suffering beings, just as our world of samsara is. So we've talked about many times, we've talked about the different kinds of suffering. So who can give me the three kinds of suffering in the correct order? Oh, come on, one of you can.
The suffering of suffering?
Yes.
The suffering of change and
Yeah.
the pervasive suffering.
What's an example of suffering of suffering? Your cataract.
Just things happen and we suffer.
Okay, so just straight up physical pain.
Yeah.
It would be suffering of suffering. Okay, suffering of change.
Growing older.
Yes, that's
losing somebody.
Yes, as my wife puts it, you have ice cream, then it's gone.
Losing something, yeah. So losing something you want.
A lot of my metaphors are food. I think that's that's kind of sad. I'll have to change that. Oh, I had some ice cream. Was it last night? The last night? Yeah. I had an ice cream cone. Boy, did that taste good. It was a small one because I knew my wife was going to get mad at me. But I got her one too, so. Okay. What about the pervasive suffering? What have we talked about with pervasive suffering?
That's the suffering that happens to all of us. The fact that we're born and we die.
Right, but what's the other one that I like to mention?
Is it food?
No. It's what karma is going to ripen next. Think what it would be like if you could tell what karma was going to ripen next. That would be pretty scary because you'd see, I would see Parkinson's come running up to me, or you see someone robbing you. So the fact that we can't see what karma is going to ripen next is in a sense good, but I would have liked to have known I was going to get Parkinson's when I turned 64, but so suffering of suffering, suffering of change, pervasive suffering, which is that we're dying or we don't know what karma is going to ripen next. When we realize this pervasive suffering deeply, it'll bring us to true renunciation. I'm going to sneeze. I thought, maybe not. Okay. So we have the 5 paths. We talked about those, I believe, last class, but let's review them. Who can give me the 5 paths? No, Vilda, you already answered one. Somebody else.
Accumulation.
Yes.
Preparation.
Yes.
Sin.
Yes.
Habituation.
Yes.
And no more learning.
Right. Now, can you give me an example of each?
Too much. No. The accumulation is that we don't want more bad seeds. We are renunciation, accumulation of renunciation.
I think of accumulation as, which I think is what you said, but in a shorter way of saying it, path of accumulation is accumulating renunciation. You want to get out of samsara. Okay, so the next path.
Start studying Dharma.
Right. Path of preparation is preparing yourself for the direct perception of emptiness. Okay, then path of seeing, that's pretty obvious. Path of habituation.
The habit.
You know things are not self-existent, but you still have the habit to see them as self-existent, but you don't react to them as being self-existent. Okay, and then path of no more learning. Yay, you're a Buddha. So you should be able to list the 3 sufferings. You should be able to list the 5 paths and what they mean. You should be able to list the 3 extraordinary trainings. You should be able to list the 3 moralities. All of these things are very useful tools. I think you should have memorized the source of all my good and the 3 principal paths. That's asking. I don't have to do this tomorrow, but I like having all this memorized, because when a situation occurs in my life, I can reflect back on one of the stanzas, perhaps. I have the 3 principal paths and the source of all my good on my phone. The trouble is the print's so small, I can't read it. The reason I have it on my phone is sometimes I'm reciting them to myself and I get stuck and I can't remember one of the verses, and it just makes me frustrated because then I have to go home. Wherever I am, I have to go home and find it and remember it. So if I have it on my phone, it's easier. Okay. To reach path number 1 in either Mahayana or Hinayana track is to realize pervasive suffering is true for every being. Every being. So how does someone who's really rich suffer? Well, they could suffer by doing something stupid and getting thrown in jail. They could suffer by the stock market failing and all their money going down the drain. When they're in their higher paradise, they're not Buddha paradise, they're God realm and near God realms. They are enjoying, everything is fine. They have wonderful food and they're just having a ball, but they're using up their karma. And when that karma is used up, they go straight down to the hell realm. So again, just because you're wealthy doesn't mean you're going to live a long and healthy life. Okay. So you realize you're fed up with all the suffering, you're fed up with being unhappy, you want out of that life where everything is always so screwed up. So we need to see that everybody else in the world is going through the same kind of misery and are unable to fix it because most of the world's population doesn't have the Dharma to fall back on. So they're unable to fix it. So we can want to fix it ourselves. We'll go to that next step of fixing it for everyone. And that's where we make the difference. So definition of nirvana is the permanent cessation of all mental afflictions because of the realizations one has as a result of the direct perception of emptiness. What is the difference between nirvana and Buddhahood? Nirvana is overcoming mental afflictions. Buddhahood is overcoming mental afflictions for the benefit of all living beings. So once I've reached nirvana, my house is still going to need repair. I'm still going to possibly lose a job, but none of it will upset your mental state, your peace of mind. You'll respond when a negative thing happens, but you won't respond when a negative thing happens, but you'll still have old karma to ripen. Once all the old karma is cleared out under the influence of great compassion, you will reach what the Hinayana practitioners call total nirvana. Without mental afflictions, we won't react negatively to any situation, so we won't be making any new bad karma. It takes years after the direct perception of emptiness to finish off all your mental afflictions. And this is what they call a bath of habituation. Okay. Let's see how we're doing on time. Now, you want to take a short break? No? Okay. So, emptiness. Emptiness. One of the problems with teaching emptiness or studying emptiness is a difficult trend. The English language doesn't have a good word. My wife and I like to sometimes substitute emptiness with potential. The potential for something to happen depends on my karma ripening. Which karma ripening? The potential for a karma to ripen. So we need to understand what things are empty of. Geshe has a famous story about taking out some people to a fancy restaurant and ordering all the fancy food and drink and having a great time. And he reaches into his pocket for his wallet. And in my version of the story, his wallet's not there. He can't pay for the food. So what's missing? The thing that was missing was his wallet. That's his pants were empty of having the wallet in them. It wasn't there. You must understand what it is that is missing to be able to understand emptiness. We must identify the gaksha in order to establish its emptiness, its absence. Does one exist? No. How do we identify something that doesn't even exist? So really what we need to do is identify in our imagination a self-existent thing. We can imagine a pink two-headed elephant does, but that does not make it exist. What would a self-existent thing be like? It can't depend on anything else because it cannot be dependent. It's independent. How many wrong ideas? There's so many wrong ideas about gakshas, and we need not make those mistakes. The worst idea about a gaksha, a no self, is to think that it means I don't really exist. That would be nuts. I'm here, you can see me. You're there, I can see you. This me, that you is not a gaksha. We're not denying your existence. Perceptually, there's something going wrong, but it's not me sitting here before you, nor is it you sitting there before me. Emptiness does not mean the things we can't see are not there. They are there. They are there. It's just the bottom line. To say that because things are empty of self-existent, they aren't there, is just so completely wrong. It's dangerous. What it is we think is there that isn't there is screwing us up and causing all our suffering. According to the highest school of Buddhism, Majjhimika Prasangika, we've never had a correct perception ever until we've seen emptiness directly. Every perception has been stained by some kind of misperception. We have had valid perceptions, but not correct ones. So that's the key. That's something I struggled with for a while. A valid perception, but not a correct perception. So I have a valid perception of what looks like a mirage on covering Wilcox when I drive down the pass going down into Wilcox. It's a valid perception. It looks like a lake, so that's valid, but there's no lake there, so it's not correct. For something to be a gaksha, it would have to exist without dependent origination, without having come from something else. So to better understand this, we need to decide what does it mean to depend on something else. Everything in the universe is dependent. Fact itself, existent things don't exist. The fact that self-existent things don't exist is emptiness. The lowest schools of Buddhism say dependent means that a thing depends on its causes and conditions to start or grow. So for this school, what would be a self-existent thing? Their example would be something called a sky flower, a flower that could genuinely sprout, grow, and bloom in midair without soil, water, or sunlight. Is this a mistake we're making? No. We know things come from causes and conditions. But how does that help me in suffering? The next higher school says there are things that exist that don't have causes, so your explanation is not complete. Like what? Empty space. Empty space is unoccupied or occupied. Space is always there, it just doesn't have causes, and it never stops and it never started. So things have causes is one meaning of dependent origination, but not the ultimate meaning. So space is space a self-existent thing? No. It's still dependent on its parts. So what do we mean by parts in space? We mean the directions, north, south, east, west, up, down, northwest, southwest, etc. the definition that, whoops, my computer just blinked. Hang on. Okay. This is the mistake we're making, acting toward people because we think they don't exist independent of their parts. The highest school says this is still not the ultimate meaning of dependent origination. Just because something has parts, it has to be more subtle. Dependent means to be dependent on one's own projection. Every object in the universe depends on your projection of it. So now a self-existent thing is something that exists without depending on your projections. So what is a projection? What do I mean by a projection? What are we seeing? We're seeing a mental image that has been synthesized from certain clues. Dependent origination is a process of picking up data and making a nice big mental image and labeling it. So this is where I have a struggle, and I talked about this with my lovely wife and my students this morning. We talk about shapes and colors and things out there that our karma ripens and we organize. But that seems to me to imply they're out there to be organized. So I talk about, and Lama Christie said this was true to a certain extent, that our karma ripens, then we see it. So our karma ripens to form a pen, and then we see the pen. But we're forming the pen out of potential out in the rest of the world. So I still struggle with what is our projection being projected on. Geshe talks about a blank screen like a movie screen, but that implies something out there. That implies, so in order for that to make sense to me, my karma ripens. I see a movie screen or the equivalent of a movie screen, and then my karma ripens and it plays out. But I don't think that's correct either. So I'm struggling with, I don't struggle with the idea of a projection coming from my mind. That I can deal with. But what am I projecting onto is what I'm struggling with now. So it's a struggle. I put it on the back burner. I think of it when I can. I try and talk to other people about it. I'd be curious if any of you have any thoughts on the subject. But I don't give up and I don't say, well, since I don't understand it, I don't believe in emptiness. That'd actually be breaking one of my vows. We pick up clues from an image in our mind, label it and mistake the thing for something that could really exist out there in front of us. We're constantly mistaking the mental images of our minds, things that exist out there, independent of our image of it. So what it means to have the direct perception of dependent origination is to perceive things directly. We're looking at an object and parts and realize it's not what we think we're seeing. That's what happened when he had his direct perception of dependent origination with the pot. I've had several experiences. I don't claim they're the direct perception of dependent origination. I want to be clear. I'm not claiming that. But what I can do is explain. I don't know if I've explained this to you, as maybe I have. Have I talked about having, and the people that have heard this before, you can just smile. I talked about a trip to South Africa in a headlamp. So whenever I travel on a plane, I always think if there's a crash, I'm going to be the one who's going to have the headlamp, and I'm going to be the one who's going to save everybody on the plane, because it's going to crash at night and no one can see anything, and I'll have the headlamp and I'll save everybody. Yay. So I'm getting ready to go to South Africa, and I noticed that my headlamp, which is usually was in the compartment of the console between seats in the front seat of my beloved truck. I look, and there's no headlamp. What do you mean there's no headlamp? I put it there this morning. There's no headlamp. So instead of going into the airport right away, I go out and find a drugstore and I get another headlamp. And I put up my luggage and I'm a happy camper. And I come back from South Africa 3 weeks later, and there in the console is my headlamp. So I didn't have the karma to see a headlamp. This is my mind at that point. I'm thinking, what happened? I didn't have the karma to see that headlamp, and now I do? Or was my mind thinking, the headlamp, I'm looking for the black bezel and LEDs and on-off switch. And since I didn't see that, because it was wrapped up in the strap, there was no bezel there. Instead of saying, well, the bezel's wrapped up with the head strap. So to me, that was I caught myself seeing for the first time that it's all coming from my mind. So I was trying to project headlamp with bezel out, and what my mind was projecting was headlamp wrapped with the bezel strap. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's hard to explain, but at that moment I realized it's my karma ripening and I have to deal with it and try and understand it. So there's nothing in the world that is not this way. If you have a mental image called face that came from death, what part of the parts of my image? That's scrambled. Well, he uses the face. I like to use an atom. So we know about atoms. They have a nucleus with protons and neutrons and electrons. And we look at the atom, and now we find out that the proton's made of quarks and all these other little subatomic particles. And when we look at one particle, it has a front and a back, the top and a bottom, so it has parts. And you look at the top of the quark, and it has the top and a bottom and left and right. And you go through and you realize you're never going to find the absolute part that makes up the object. It's like with Arya Nagarjuna, there's no stopping, staying. There's no starting, stopping, or staying. Self-existently. So what does all this have to do with Lord Buddha's answer to Subhuti? Bodhisattvas have sworn to take all sentient beings to nirvana. My notes got scrambled. So he says, no one will get to nirvana. There are no such beings. Who is a person that we can't get to nirvana? A self-existent person. So throughout the sutra, he could have repeatedly said, the self-existent, but that would have gotten really tiring and would have made the sutra much less evocative. So when he says, no one, you will not be able to get anybody, you will not bring anybody to total enlightenment. he's saying you will not bring any self-existent being to total enlightenment because no such being exists. So the question is, where the mental images come from? How do I get my projections to stop my suffering? The classic wrong view is that always it's just my projection, so does it matter what I do or they do? I'll just make my projection of them be pleasant. It doesn't work. Take your least favorite food and make it taste like chocolate. It doesn't work. I think I was talking about food earlier. Okay, here's a fun homework question. I'd like you each to think of what your least favorite food is. Your least favorite food. I'm going to write that down because I'm curious. Least favorite, where did my pen go? Yeah. Okay. So you have to write down your least favorite food. Now I've got a story, as you might expect, about least favorite foods. My mom tried hard, but she only had a few recipes that really tasted pretty good. The rest were not all that hot. And she could cook zucchini till it was transparent. You could read through the zucchini when she cooked it. She would cook liver till it was just disgusting to eat. So we were on a trip once to see my sister in another state, and we stopped at a truck stop, and we were at a truck stop restaurant, and I looked on the menu and it said liver with onions. This is obviously back before I was a vegetarian. And I thought to myself, if truck drivers will eat this, then I should eat it. So I ordered it. It was just a wonderfully cooked piece of liver with smothered in onions. So what was the least favorite food turned into a favorite food until I became a vegetarian. Trying to think of the other example was all the food that I didn't like at home because my mother couldn't cook it very easily. When I went to the university and went to the dorms, the food line in the dorms, what was comforting to me was the very food that I didn't like when I was at home. So zucchini cooked properly. They didn't serve liver because no one would eat liver. But I guess the story is something that you don't like can turn into something you do like, and vice versa. So if you take your least favorite food and try and make it taste like chocolate, I can't do that. I'll share with you my least favorite food. It's lima beans. I don't like lima beans. A close second is okra. I'm still trying to find someone who can cook okra to where I'd like it. If you deep fat fry anything, I'll probably eat it. So everything is our projections. They're absolutely real because they're our projection. It works this way because it's a projection. Emptiness does not mean nothing exists. Emptiness does not mean nothing matters. Buddha spent as much time teaching ethics as he did teaching emptiness. If you had a teaching on emptiness that doesn't immediately go into ethics, there's something very wrong. So I need to go into ethics because I didn't talk much about it today. Your karma comes from your actions of body, speech, and mind. So if you want good karma, you have to have good acts of body, speech, and mind. If you want bad karma, you do the opposite. So it's incumbent upon you, if you want a pleasant paradisical world, you need to do good deeds, period, and dedicate them. It's really to me, it's just, that's one of the beauties of Buddhism. It's that simple. If you want a pleasant world, do good deeds, help others, then have the patience to realize that will come back to you in future lives. And when you get upset that the good deed doesn't ripen into a good result right away, be glad that a bad deed doesn't ripen as a bad result right away. So that's pretty much what I have for today. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. No questions? Okay. Let's do a dedication. Let's see, where's one I haven't read in a while? Well, may the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma type of the Buddhas, always increase. O Gurus, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, O Tara, Mother of us all, please listen to what I now say from the depths of my heart. Watch over Tenzin Gyatso, protector of the land of snow. He who is of one taste with Avalokiteshvara, guide him and protect him that he may live long to bring liberation to his people and the Dharma to all sentient beings. May all his goals and wishes be achieved. I don't know how many of you, I call it looking at my news feed. It's not news, but it's YouTube. There's a YouTube thing that I see often. That's a guy with a work helmet and a safety vest, and they go through and show humorous things that happen at the work site, or they show very skilled people doing things at the work site. And I'm watching this and scrolling through, and all of a sudden there's Geshe Michael speaking one of the, some aspect of the Dharma. I just about fell off the bed. I couldn't believe it. That happened twice in one day. It hasn't happened since. My wife saw, she was on one of her news feeds, and at the very last thing she saw was a quote from Geshe. So he's starting to permeate the world of YouTube, in ways other than the teaching, which I find extraordinary, really extraordinary. That was really something to see. I'll never forget that. I'm looking forward to talking. It had the ACI logo on it, so it must have been done by ACI. But okay, so do your homeworks and quiz. If you haven't done class 1, get them done by class 3, and we'll see you all on Monday. Okay. Good to see you all. Have a pleasant weekend and Friday. And yeah, that's about it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Дарю, до свидания.
Thank you so much.
Dankeschön.
Please stay, teachers.